face that you've seen all over the youth and the adult bouldering and sport nationals.
Brooke Raboutou is on Team ABC from Boulder, Colorado. She is one of the two youngest competitors here. She is the overall youth world champion.
Brooke Raboutou swooping over to the finish on women's 2. There it is for Brooke Raboutou. 1, 2, 2 in a row for Brooke Raboutou.
Brooke has got a long future, I predict, here.
Certainly one of the most experienced competitors in U.S. competitions, being the daughter of Robin Erbisfield Raboutou and Didier Raboutou, both World Cup competitors with winning records.
So we were just talking about like pictures of Brooke when she was little. I think we have a couple. So this is Brooke's, it's like dusty, Brooke's first lead climb. Well, she was top rope. Look how little she was. She must have been 2. Just all smiles. This is how Sean and Brooke became strong for climbing, doing gymnastics. And look, she's like missing all of her teeth. Brooke's room. We got her most recent trophy from World Championships. Anyway, we can't stay in here very long because she might not like that. Lots of memories from the kids. Let's see, go downstairs. My name's Robin Erbisfield Raboutou. 2 last names, one's my maiden name, one's my married name. Proud of both of those, so I tend to call myself Robin Erbisfield Raboutou. My high school boyfriend introduced me to climbing. So I was 17 years old. There were very few girls that climbed at the time. And I remember they put me on a 5'8", and I did it, and they were all just like, wow. So that's what kicked off my climbing, and then I really took climbing seriously from that point on, until finally I got a phone call from Todd Skinner in 1989 asking if I wanted to present myself at the first World Cup in Leeds, England. And I was like, sure, I'll go.
Robin entered that competition and won, first time in a comp. So that's how she came onto the scene.
I feel like she knew what she needed to do to win, and so then she did that. She's very competitive. If she wants to win, she's probably gonna win.
Whatever she sets her mind to, she's gonna work pretty hard at achieving whatever goal it is.
The first time we met was in Paris, in competition in a city called Massy.
Our chairs were like behind the wall, and he was getting his shoes on while I was getting my shoes on. We were getting tied in, and I remember he was using puff, and he was like squeaking his La Sportiva. He was like, eek, eek, eek. I was like, what are you doing? Like, is that the magic? Is that why you're so strong? And he's like, well, it's part of my tactic, you should try it. And so he let me use it, and then he actually let me keep it. From that moment on, I had my eyes on Didier, and I think it took like a full year to get him like out of the girlfriend and hooked on me.
I don't think it was ever like a point where I realized, I was like, oh, my parents were really good at climbing. It's just like, wow, your parents are professional rock climbers. Isn't that cool to have them? I'm like, yeah, it's very cool. Kind of just grew up knowing that,
I started really winning everything in 1992.
Well, she was so focused and so driven. Her goal is to become #1, and she did.
If you come into a competition with that kind of confidence, people are going to be intimidated. They're going to believe that she's right, that she is going to win. And she tells herself that story, and that is empowering. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It can be true if you believe it.
It'd be really difficult to imagine with Robin and Didier's genes not creating strong climbers. When Brooke started climbing around age 2 in diapers, everyone kind of knew this could be something amazing.
It was probably 2-ish when I first started climbing, kind of just when I was walking. I feel like I remember having a little wall in our basement kind of, and just climbing up it. It's part of their lives, so might as well be part of mine.
When ABC came along, it started becoming even more of a realization that Brooke could be a phenomenal climber.
There was no question that Robin was going to start her own gym.
Basically, our concept was to build a mini climbing facility. Our programs are starting at 2 and going to 7 initially. Sean and Brooke were kind of the stars of the program.
Brooke and Sean was involved in ABC since day one.
The ABC program, I think, was the brainchild of Robin and Didier in large part because there was nothing really available for kids at the time, and she wanted her kids to have a place to go climb and a community to go climb with. Also to just help kids climbing in general.
I think we were a big reason why it started. Like, I don't know, just to support the kids. It's always been around the kids, you know, I think in my mom's eyes and ABC in general.
ABC was kind of the perfect place for Brooke to be able to develop such high-level climbing skills at such a young age. Brooke's been setting records since she was 9 years old. At 9, she climbed B10. At 10, she climbed B11 and 514A, and at 11, she climbed 514B. The fact that the Raboutous are the only family to have all climbed 8C, it's so incredible.
She's driven. Their mental aspects for climbing are pretty high.
Brooke and Ashima in competitions have always been neck and neck, and they would often find themselves next to each other on the podium.
Without Ashima, you might not have Brooke as good as she is, and without Brooke, you might not have Ashima as good as she is.
I was definitely competitive with her, but like I think it was a very good thing because it was just like, you know, obviously I wanted to be the first place. It makes you work harder, but you want to win with good people, you know, you don't want to win if it's easy.
These last couple years have been really big years for Brooke.
Brooke's now leaving the youth competitive circuit behind to hopefully earn a spot on the overall national team by just focusing on all of the adult competitions this year.
Even to be driven in all of these different levels and to do everything at a high level, to do school at a high level, to do climbing at a high level, it helps balance you out. This season is career defining for a lot of athletes. Everybody wants to have the chance to go to the Olympics.
At the beginning of the season, there was definitely a group of us that people thought had a shot at the Olympics, but there was no one person that was like for sure going.
Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, is a very fitting location for the top climbers in the country because at the end of the day, we will have a much better idea about who might represent the United States at the 2020 Summer Olympics. It's the second and final day of the 2019 USA Climbing Sport and Speed Open National Championships.
Sport and Speed Nationals was really important because it was really that final moment that determined the US national team. The most stressful part is getting into finals, and then I can really have fun and perform my best. I feel like it's important to be able to take that pressure and turn it into like power versus stress.
Brooke Raboutou is looking to lock up one of those 4 spots on the US overall national team, which is the first big step in getting herself toward the Olympics in 2020.
From the beginning of the climb, I was stressed and I was kind of shaky, which did not help me.
Looking to work her way into the finals here in the sport competition. If she does that, she's basically guaranteed a spot on the U.S. overall national team, but then a slip. So we will see if that's going to be good enough to get her into the top 8. So Raboutou,
I think I just like hesitated a lot on the route, kind of fumbled the holds, and then next thing I knew I was on the end of the rope. Falling right there, I just knew that that wasn't my best performance and that wasn't myself, so I was really disappointed with how I climbed. I was just upset because I wasn't able to climb my best. Luckily, because of my speed performance, it was enough to get me onto the national team.
Next up, Brooke Raboutou and Lauren Bear. 8.83 seconds is still the mark to beat as Lauren Bear and Brooke Raboutou. Raboutou on the left, taking a slight lead over Bear. 9.331 for Brooke Raboutou.
Now we're following a couple of Boulder climbers. The Sport and Speed Open Nationals this weekend in Alexandria, Virginia. Brooke Raboutou made the Final 4. That means they also made the USA climbing team. They qualified for a chance to compete for a spot on the U.S. Olympic team for the Summer Games in Tokyo in 2020.
I was pretty determined to be on the team, and I could then look into the future and see, where I wanted to be and what my goals were for Olympics. I chose to go to college, whereas a lot of climbers didn't choose to do that. And I definitely had people question why I was going to school, and they're like, why would you go to school if you're a professional climber? Don't you want to just climb? If anybody ever said anything, it never really affected me. I was just like, I know what I want to do. We're walking. to the library. A lot of the other people on the team don't have that struggle as much with balancing school and climbing. It's been kind of hard.
Many of Brooke's fellow competitors and teammates chose to focus just on training, but Brooke needed more than that in her life.
When I'm not climbing, I can really appreciate how much, I want to climb too. Thank you. There's so much different types of training you need to do. I usually did 2 days on, 1 day off, and I don't think I ever skipped one of those, whether I was tired or had homework to do. It's definitely been harder. Sometimes I don't really want to go to the gym. My friends are going to the beach, I've been pretty good at getting myself there and then having a fun time when I'm there and training hard. I'm a delicate, powerful climber. A lot of just climbing, boulder problems, trying new things, on-sighting, projecting. I also definitely incorporate hangboard into that to get my fingers strong as well as campusing, and then either just rope climbing or circuits on a spray wall.
Instead of obsessing about a strategy, what Brooke chose to do was what fit in best with her life and her own personal style. In order to qualify for the Olympics, the first step for any climber is to make the national team. Once you've made the national team, you're eligible to compete at any international events throughout the season. At those international events, you participate in the World Cups, and at the World Cups, you can earn points to eventually go to World Championships. At the World Championships, there's the combined format. In order to be good at the combined format, you can't be so-so at any one individual discipline. Collegiate sports typically have the funding and the structure to support their athletes. Climbing, being so new, doesn't have that just yet, so Brooke had to convince her school to even allow her the time to go off to these international events and compete.
I emailed my dean, letting her know that I would be missing the first 2 weeks, and she said, missing 2 weeks of classes at the beginning of your first semester at USD is going to be problematic. I worry about you being able to keep up your classes while you're attending such an event. It wasn't even a question in my mind if I was going to school in the fall. I was just letting her know that I wouldn't be there.
We just got into Mire again, and it's quite snowy and slushy.
The World Cup season was really long. I just never felt like I could really be satisfied with my performance, so I really didn't know what was going to happen at World Championships.
If Brookie's having a good day in a combined event, she's, on the podium for sure.
Welcome back to Japan. It is the day that felt like it would never come. Today, we may put our first climbers forward for Olympic selection, depending on how the next couple of hours goes. We are live in Hachioji on the western edge of Japan.
Anxious, I'm excited. It's like, no matter what happens, it's cool. My heart's pounding.
After the combined qualification round ended, there was this uncertainty lingering in the air.
The scores were constantly changing and everybody was stressed.
There was an element of ambiguity as to who was going to get that invitation to the Olympics.
The live scoring's down, nobody knows anything. Brooke's sitting on the bubble. There's a lot of ties, so they're going to have to change up the scores a little bit.
Right before Josh came through the doors, I still didn't know what was going on. I didn't want to accept that I had made it because I didn't want that false hope. And I also just really wasn't sure.
Yeah, for sure. She said in 5 days you'll get a letter saying it's passed down and you made the Olympics.
I don't even know. Apparently I got the spot to the Olympics, which is pretty crazy. So I don't think I'll know how I feel for a while. I mean, I'm super psyched, but crazy.
You're here to celebrate Brooke's ticket to the Olympic Games 2020 Tokyo. With all the community, all the people that have supported her throughout the years, she just put it all together when it mattered.
I went to the World Championships thinking that I would just try my best and we'd see what happens. I never really expected that I'd walk away, qualifying for the Olympics. I was definitely overwhelmed and I'm very grateful, and yeah, now it's time to get to work.
New at 10, she's only 18, but a Boulder teenager is already making history. Brooke Raboutou just became the first U.S. athlete to qualify for the brand new climbing competition in the 2020 Olympics. It seems everybody in the climbing world already knows about Brooke.
Shall I continue?